Hi there. Having made the Sieg S50, I found it an extremely enjoyable and rewarding experience. And it must have taken me about 3 months at least from start to finish. And during that 3-month period I probably spent 75% of the time thinking about how to go about doing it, probably 10% of the time actually making it, and probably around 15% of the time making videos. So the whole thing is quite a time consuming process, and it created quite a bit of a dilemma with me really, because in the past I've really enjoyed wood turning, so really it introduced a conflict of interest. So after a lot of debating, I actually decided that one of the two has got to give. So I decided to give up my wood turning. So I've sold all my wood turning kit. But the good news is I've actually bought a new lathe. So I've bought a Sieg SC4 from Trade. And it's, compared with the little mini lathe, it does seem to me like quite a bit of a beast, quite noisy and quite powerful. So I don't see myself getting rid of the mini lathe, because I think that's really got a place, but I will be undertaking some work in the future on the SC4. Now in this video I thought I'd have a go at making some threads, making a threaded rod on the new SC4, and it's something I've never attempted to do before, so I thought it might be quite interesting. So let's see how we get on. So just before we start having a go at making this threaded rod, I thought I'd mention these instructions that were produced by a guy called Bob Ackert. These instructions are accessible over the internet, free download. The instructions that come with a lathe are pretty minimal really, and in Robert's instructions he covers a few things off initially in terms of recommendations, what you should do out of the box. One of those recommendations is to make a mark on the with the cross slide at a 90-degree position from where the actual mark is that measures the degrees, and you use that for when you're actually doing the thread making. So I'll show you that a little bit later. So it's got a whole boatload of information in here, and it also touches on how to actually go about making thread, so I'll be pretty much following the instructions that are laid out here to undertake this thread work. Now my simple plan here is to make an M8 thread. So I've got a piece of round bar stock, it's aluminium, and I've turned one end down to 7.8 millimeters in diameter for the major diameter, and as I understand it, the minor diameter should be 6.27 millimeters or thereabouts. So I've cut this relief, or I'm going to cut a relief here, so that when I make the thread the cutting tool will go in that direction, and when I get to that point I can stop the lathe, back the cutting tool off a bit, reverse feed, and then go around again, and repeat that until I actually get down to this minor diameter. Now the pitch is going to be 1.25 millimeters, so I need to make some adjustments on the lathe gearing to achieve that, which will be something totally new for me. And in terms of turning the aluminium, I reckon at least 2000 RPM for 8mm diameter bar stock. Having said that, I'll probably run at, I don't know, 1000 revs and see how that goes. Okay, so from the factory, it comes with a mark in the centre here on the cross slide to enable you to set the appropriate angle of the compound slide. But unfortunately there isn't a mark at 90 degrees to that one, so I followed the instructions and I've just placed a little punch mark there at 90 degrees, and the idea is for thread cutting you set the compound slide to be 29.5 degrees at that point. Now the tool I'm using is a tool specifically made for cutting threads, and I believe the angle at the end is 60 degrees. Now the tool post needs to be parallel with the bed. So I'll just double check this angle to be 29.5. Lock it down. Tighten the tool post down. Put the tool in the holder. And tighten it up. So the machine comes as standard to create a 0.25mm pitch. Now these gears here are labelled A, B, C and D, and the gears on here at the moment, that one's got 30 teeth, that's got 120, that's got 60 and that's got 120. Now to create a pitch of 1.25mm you've got to replace that with a 50 tooth gear, replace that one with 100 tooth gear and place an 80 tooth gear on here, but take the spacer out so it can fit and mesh against that one. Now, I've already loosened some of these nuts, so let's see how we get on. It's a bit of a jiggle. Put those to one side so we don't lose them. So this needs to come off. Interesting. So I'm guessing this just pushes out. Whoa. It's quite tight is that, so I think I'll have to encourage that to come off camera. But anyway, me see. Need 100 on this one. Oh, quite fiddly actually. Take this spacer off here, put that one on there, sort of works. Put that spacer back on there. Put that back on there. It's quite tight on there, so I'll just go over to the bench and try and sort this out. Well, that was a very tight fit, and the only way I could get that off it was to hold it and then just tap it like that. Anyway, I got there eventually. So it's just a matter of pressing this on. Get it the right way around so we can see the stamp 50. Push that on there. Now I need to loosen that, I think, to move this arm. And this goes back on that bearing. That goes back on there. And this pulls up here and set, so it's not too tight but a little bit of wiggle room. I just put any gear on here to space it out. There we go. Well, that seemed to be a bit of a faff, but got there in the end. So I'll just put a bit of oil on it, put the cover back on, and see where we go from there. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. Now this lathe has got two levers for engaging the half nuts. Now this lever here is for sort of faster running, doing roughing cuts. This lever here, if you move it downwards, it'll run the carriage a lot slower, and that's for finishing cuts. However, as far as I understand it, to cut threads, you need to use that lever. That being the case, I think the carriage will run quite quickly, so I'll reduce the speed on the lathe down to about 140, 150. Now I've moved the compound slide and the carriage into a position where the tool is just touching the workpiece, and I've zeroized the dials on both the cross slide and the compound. Now the idea will be to engage the half nuts and run the tool across this piece until I get to the recess. Then I'll hit the stop button. Then I'll move the tool back using the cross slide at one full turn. Then I'll put the lathe into reverse and hit the start button to reverse the carriage back across the piece without touching it. Then I'll move the cross slide back into its original position, one full turn, and then I'll move the compound slide in by 5 thou. Then I'll go into the fork position and hit the start button and make another cut. I'll keep on repeating that until the tool just touches the recess. So that's the plan. So fingers crossed. So engage the half nut. Hit stop. Hit the reverse button. Move the cross slider back one full turn. Hit the start button for it to go back. Hit the stop button. Move the cross slide back to its original position and move the compound slide in by 5 thou. Go into forward, start. Stop. Back out the cross slide. Move the cross slide back into its original position. Move the compound slide in by 5 thou. Goes forward. Start. Move the compound in by 10 thou. Go 5 thou. Well, that seems to have turned out really well. I'm well impressed. That wing nut fits perfectly. And that's a piece of threaded rod I bought previously, so it looks extremely similar. So very happy with that. Well, that was an interesting little exercise, and it got me to use the SC4 for the first time, and it's actually the first time I've attempted to cut any threads on the lathe. Now with the SC4, and indeed my mini lathe, there's no need for a thread dial. You can just use the forward and reverse facility, and you keep the lead screw engaged throughout the process, and that works pretty well. If I was to do it again, I'd probably try and increase the speed a little bit, although it can get a little bit hairy when you get into the end, and I'd probably only cut in increments of 5 thou. Halfway through the process I did increase it to 10 thou, and that might have been a little bit too aggressive. I don't know. What else did I learn? Oh, changing the gears. That seemed to be a right old faff, and time consuming. But I think next time I'll be familiar with what the process is, and I should be a lot slicker next time I have a go at that. Anyway, I hope you like the result, and hope to see you later.